Welcome back to ChessBox Worldwide. Today I bring you a fantastic game played between I am Ssegwanyi and I am Emojong, who is the first international master in Eastern Central Africa. This game happened during the recent KANTINTI Memorial Open, which took place on the 5th of April 2025. These two players got their IM titles from the 4.2 Zone Chess Tournament. By then it had countries like Egypt, Zambia, making it very hard to win. And now it's called the 4.4 zone on the African continent. These two IMs have won many chess tournaments around the world and they have read a lot of chess theory. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the center of African chess. In the white pieces, IM opened the game with 1 e4, c5 from IM, knight f3, 6, bishop b5, which introduces us to the Sicilian-Rossolimo variation. White has developed the kingside pieces very fast and they are willing to go ahead for short castle easily. Black has knight coming to d4 or g6. For example, in case of knight d4, then we shall see knight takes d4, c takes d4. In this position, c3 is expected or short castling. But in case white goes ahead and plays d3, that's a complete blunder because of queen f4 check, checking the king and also threatening to win the bishop, which is on b5. Remember, the knight can't play c3 because the pawn, which is on d4, can win the knight on c3. Let's go back. Bishop b5. I play g6. In this position, in case white goes ahead and plays bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and I can tell you black will be doing very fine. That's why after g6 played short castling, and now we see bishop g7, rook e1, knight f6, knight c3, short castling. In this position, white has a variety of options to play. For example, d3 or e5. In case of pawn e5, then we shall see knight e8, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, h3, stopping the bishop pin, knight c7, d3, opening up for the black bishop, knight e6. And you see that all these squares, g5, f4, have been taken control of by the knight, which is on e6. And in case of f4, then we shall see f5. Black is doing very fine. Let's go back. After short castling, d3, strengthening the pawn, which is on e4. Knight comes to d4, attacking the bishop, which is on b5. f4, strengthening the bishop. d6, opening up for the black bishop. h3, stopping the pin. Knight comes to d7, opening up for the black bishop. Knight takes d4, c takes d4. And after knight comes to e2, you see that the c2 is going to be a weakness which can be attacked in the future. In case of queen comes c7, rook comes c8, it will be attacking the pawn, which is on c2. In this position, queen c7 or knight comes to e5 can be seen in the position. In case of knight c5, then we shall see b4, attacking the knight. Knight goes to e6, f5, b6, a takes b6, queen takes b6, rook a5, defending the bishop, which is on b5, and also trying to obstruct the queen not take the pawn, which is on b4. Knight d8, and now knight wants to come to b7, attack the rook, and then win the bishop, which is on b5. c4, strengthening the bishop. D takes c3, impassant. Bishop e3, attacking the queen, queen c7, queen b3, and in the future we see a6. And now we see that white can always attack that pawn, which is on c3, and black has no control over it. Let's go back. After knight e2, queen c7, and we see bishop d2. And after knight e5, planning to play a6, and in case of bishop comes to c4, then the knight can take this bishop, which is on c4, a5, opening up a running square for the bishop. a6, bishop goes to f4, the bishop d7, challenging the bishop. In case white plays bishop d3, then knight c6, and after f4, at least white would have a slight advantage in the position. But however, after bishop d7, IM played knight takes d4 and played the strongest move. He played knight takes d3, opening up for the bishop to win the knight. And remember, knight is also attacking the rook, which is on e1. c takes d3, bishop takes knight on d4, and in this position I am played bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, bishop c3, challenging the bishop. In case of bishop takes bishop, then pawn takes bishop, and I can tell you white would be doing very well because we will have 3 center pawns. Bishop goes back to g7, queen b3, rook comes c8, rook comes to c1. Remember, the bishop is still putting an eye on the pawn, which is on f5. Bishop goes to h6, attacking the rook, which is on c1. Rook goes to d1, rook c5, and in this position, IM played d4, but however, e5 was going to be a powerful move. For example, in case of e5, then we would see rook b5 attacking the queen, e6 attacking the queen. After f takes e6, queen takes e6 check, queen takes e6, rook takes e6, rook f7 defending the pawn which is on e7. But now we would see rook could come again and attack the pawn, rook e1 attacking the pawn which is on e7. And I can tell at least white will have a point to attack in the whole game. Let's go back. After rook c5, d4 attacking the rook, rook goes to b5 attacking the queen, queen f4 pinning the rook against the queen. Then we see rook c8, d5 opening up for the bishop, f6 closing the bishop diagonal, rook d4, bishop f4 planning to bring the bishop on e5 and also ask for an exchange, rook c4, bishop e5 anyway, bishop takes e5, rook takes c4, queen takes c4, rook c5, and in this position played queen f1. But however, queen a2 should have been considered, and after f takes e5, b4, and I can tell at least the game would be equal, but at least white will have a slight advantage. Let's go back. Rook c5, he played queen f1, f takes e5, b4 attacking the rook, rook c3, he played rook b1 defending the pawn which is on b4. But however, f4 should have been considered, and after e takes f4, queen takes f4, e5, and after queen f6 can tell you white would be doing slightly better because of rook has an open file to come and support the queen. The queen is also attacking the pawn which is on d6 in the future, and at least I can tell you white will have a slight advantage. Let's go back. After rook c3, I am played rook b1 defending the pawn on b4. Now queen b5 asking for queen exchange, queen d1 maintaining the queens on the board, queen d3 emphasizing an exchange of queens, queen takes, rook takes. Now these are rook endings, but if you look at the bar, all the players, and in this game the game looks very equal. So in this position, in case you go ahead and play f3, indeed it would be a good move, but now that one will be pushing the game to drawish lines. So I am trying to bring the king into the game, and remember in the end game the king is the most attacking piece. So he played king f1, rook d2 cutting off the king, rook c1 occupying the open file, rook d4 attacking either pawns, rook c7. I am played king f7, but however the interesting move would be rook takes b4, and after rook takes e7, rook takes e4, rook takes b7, rook d4 attacking the pawn which is on d5, rook b6, and after rook takes d5, rook takes pawn which is on s6. And I can tell you at least the game would still be equal, but at least it could be playable. Let's go back. After rook c7, I am played king f7, and after rook takes b7, rook takes pawn which is on e4 taking the center pawn, b5, a takes b5, rook takes b5 defending the pawns on d5 and f5, h5, a6, rook comes to f4 attacking the passed pawn. Let me see, rook comes to b6 defending the pawn, and at the same time trying to bring the king into the attack and the arena. Rook comes to f5 attacking the pawn which is on d5, king comes to e2, rook takes d5, a7, rook f5, going to play king d3, but however rook b7 should have been considered. So the game ended here, and the recordings were a little bit unclear from this position, and I am Ssegwanyi won this game. Thank you so much for watching the channel, and I wish you the best of luck. Please don't forget to go ahead, like, subscribe and comment to support the channel. Thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck in your games.